Hi folks, Josh from Tough Call for the Heavy Hockey Network, and look, I spend a lot of time on Twitter, okay? It comes with what I do. So I have a favor to ask you, and I'll let you know what the favor is in just a minute. But first, let's talk about social media right now in regard to the Edmonton Oilers. Yes, the Oilers lost Game 5, and they're in a big hole, I get it. We all get it. But I can't believe some of the things I'm reading today about what should happen if we lose this series. But it's curious, that caveat, if we lose. This is what I'm seeing. If the Oilers lose the series, it's clear this team isn't good enough. If the Oilers lose the series, it'll be because they didn't replace Mike Smith. If the Oilers lose the series, it'll be a waste of a couple of careers in McDavid and Draisaitl. If the Oilers lose the series, Woodcroft needs to go. If the Oilers lose the series, Holland should be hung. Okay, so that's all if the Oilers lose. But, and hear me out here, what if the Oilers win? If they win this series, is it because all those things are suddenly not true to you? If they win, are you willing to say it must be them because we kept Mike Smith? If we win, are you willing to say that was a good idea? I know a lot of people who think the only reason the Oilers did well down the stretch anyway is because Mike Smith started to play well. So if you're going to play the if they lose, you were right and they should have gotten rid of Smith a long time ago game, are you also going to play the if they win, they made the right choice to keep Mike Smith game? If you as a fan are still not even sure right now whether keeping Mike Smith was a good idea, and you have to wait until we lose to make that call, how can you possibly already be mad at the members of the organization who made that choice before we've actually lost? If you're still not sure right now and you need to wait to see if we lose, don't you think they're doing the same thing? Duncan Keith, same thing. We like to shit on Keith, and why not? Last game especially, he was a pretty easy target, wasn't he? It's great to spend the next day or so telling everyone how washed up he is, how slow and old he is, based on a lot of the season, and in particular last game. But we got him because he's tough to play against in the playoffs, so that the players could learn to win in the playoffs, right? That's the thing he's supposed to bring. So shouldn't we give him a chance to lose in the playoffs first before we call him a has-been or a failure? Don't we have to admit he was rock steady for at least 3 of these 5 playoff games so far? And presumably, if the series does go 7 games and we win, he'll have been a massive part of those final 2 victories, especially with Nurse out for Game 6. And if that's the case, he'll have been an important piece then for 5 of the 7 total games in the series, including when it mattered most. So that would make him a winner, wouldn't it? That would have made him the proper choice for that role. It would mean he helped our players learn how to win just like he was asked to. Of course, if we do lose, that likely won't be the case, so likely you've been bad again for both games, and you can go tell everyone how right you were. But shouldn't you wait until that happens before you bring everyone else down? If you want to say he's washed up now, go ahead and say it. Go ahead and say it. Call it right now and be done with it. But don't say, if we lose the series, he's washed up, unless you're willing to say that if we win the series, he isn't washed up. What about Woodcroft? He's being outcoached, you say. If they lose, he needs to go, you say. Well, again, if they win, are you willing to say Woodcroft isn't so bad after all? Give him a chance to lose before you crucify him. Holland, too. Has he done a good job? If we lose, you can dissect every choice he made to your heart's content. But if we win... Now, to be clear, I'm not even necessarily saying you are right to think the ship needs to be sunk, even if they lose. Let's be honest with ourselves. We came into this series as the favorites for a reason. We earned home ice advantage for a reason. You're mad about being down in a series because we're expected to win it. So already, doesn't it seem like in most people's opinions, this team is supposed to be good enough? Let's look at Holland first. How did he get us here? What has he done? For one, he's held firm on Mike Smith. Good idea, bad idea. Like we said, that's yet to be seen in a way. But in another way, Smith was a massive part of the turnaround for us late in the season. So even if he does lose, doesn't being a big reason we're even in this position to begin with count for anything? He wasn't the reason we lost in the playoffs last year. And so far, at least, he hasn't been a major factor in why we're down now. So what are you waiting for? What do you think you're going to see in the next 2 games that you don't already know? But anyway, for now, we'll say the jury's still out on that one. So for our purpose here, without knowing what tomorrow brings, it's hard to hold that decision still against Ken Holland today. And what else did Holland do? He signed Evander Kane, who became arguably the single most important midseason pickup by any team in the entire league this season. And that's still true whether we lose either of the next 2 games or not. Kane will still have been a great pickup. He picked up Brassard and Kulak at the trade deadline. He didn't sell the farm. He didn't do something desperate for the sake of making a splash. He responsibly and methodically filled the holes we needed filled. And when that worked a little but not quite enough, he made the boldest move of all, uncharacteristically firing his coach 2/3 of the way through the year. Enter Jay Woodcroft. And when most of you were convinced we weren't even a playoff team, Woodcroft rattled off 5 straight wins to start his career. And down the stretch, they went 19-6-2 to get home ice with games to spare. They had home ice with games to spare. And now here we are, 5 games into the playoffs. We were the better team for 70% of game one, completely dominated games two and three. We got owned for one game for sure, in game four on the road. And then we had a game where we outplayed probably 65% of the game. Smith kept us in it, and we still generated 58 shot attempts, and we forced overtime. So are we really doing that bad? Are we really in that bad a shape that you think it's over already, that we can't win the next two games? Now, I do understand facing elimination isn't ideal. I do understand that if we do lose, some of you are going to freak out and there will be some tough questions to answer. I recognize also that some of you have already decided that keeping Smith was a bad idea. Keith is washed up. Woodcroft isn't our guy. And if that's how you feel, it's how you feel. I'm not going to tell you how to feel. You think we're awful and we're done, and that's fair enough. And I'm not going to gatekeep either. It doesn't make you any less of a fan to feel that way. And if we do win, you're allowed to come back and cheer as loudly as anyone for round two. I won't think any less of you. And if we do lose in 12 to 64 hours, you'll have literally the entire summer to have your say. You'll have months to point out every single flaw the Oilers have, down to the most minute detail. But whether you've already decided to stick a fork in the Oilers yesterday, or whether you're waiting to see what happens in the next game or two to decide, here's my favor I ask of you. I beg of you, until we've lost, keep your panic and your negativity to yourself for one day, 3 days at the most. Let the rest of us have hope. Let us be optimistic and excited. Let the rest of us hold on to the feeling of enjoying the playoffs again, even if it is just for 12 more hours. I don't want it to be right now today about being right or wrong. I want it to be about good, fast, exciting Oilers playoff hockey. It's game day. It's a beautiful day. Let's fucking go.